Turn one, soul ring.
The cadence on that record kind of threw me off.
The cadence?
Well, you're like record. It's like what? Oh, usually he says record.
Well, that was just a test, Riley.
Yeah,
And you I think you passed, but it was close.
I think I
was
got
close.
it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just gonna get right into it today because we got more Commander Legends to cover. So welcome to the show. This is Turn One Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
Hey, I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today we are continuing our Commander Legends set review. Last week we covered the white and blue cards that we were interested in talking about. As you know, we don't do an exhaustive set review, or if this is your first time listening, then you just found out. Today we're going to be covering the black and red cards, maybe green. We'll see how much time we have, but we do this in WUBRG order. But before we get to our first black card today, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us or find us? Wherever we're at online, on the web,
On the interwebs.
Exactly.
We are over on Instagram at Turn One Soul Ring the podcast. As well, there's something called email. You can send us a message. Turn One Soul Ring the podcast at gmail.com. Also over on YouTube, we are uploading all of our stuff over there. Turn One Soul Ring the podcast is the easiest way to find us. And check us out on Patreon. If you like our stuff, support us over there. Patreon.com/Turn One Soul Ring.
Yeah, we really need to get like a fax machine and a fax number so people can send
great.
us.
I believe it's actually called electronic mail, Eric.
Oh, thank you, Riley. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's an e-web mail. So our first black card kicking things off today is Armix Filigree Thrasher. It's 2 and a black for a legendary artifact creature, 3/2. It's a golem, and whenever it attacks, you may discard a card. When you do, target creature defending player controls gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control plus the number of artifact cards in your graveyard, and it has partner.
This is a pretty decent little creature.
I do really like the graveyard clause. That's always nice. It's like those cards that we've gotten in recent years where, like Crackling Drake, where it counts the instants and sorceries that are also in exile in addition to your graveyard. It's just a nice little cushion to have.
Yeah, and it synergizes all right with itself because the card that you discard, if it's an artifact, it will count towards whatever that X value ends up becoming, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
But also, to get the trigger, it doesn't need to be an artifact card to be discarded, which is also a really good upside.
yeah. So I like to think of it as like you're basically casting this removal spell for free, assuming and hopefully that effect is big enough to kill whatever you're targeting. So it's kind of a cool effect that I'd definitely play this in some sort of like Grixis eggs build or something along those lines. Maybe a Dimir artifacts matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would slot in there real nice.
Real nice.
Next up, we have Court Next up, we have Court of Ambition. I had to do it too.
Yeah.
It's 2 and 2 black for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life unless they discard a card. If you're the monarch, instead, each opponent loses 6 life unless they discard 2 cards. Oof. I love this whole cycle of cards. And I also love that, again, in recent years we've gotten this option when it comes to like discarding a card or sacrificing a creature, like not Plague Engineer, but that one from the recent Ravnica set where you played Crafter, I think, where you had to sacrifice a creature or a planeswalker, and if you couldn't, you had to discard a card. Just kind of like no matter what, it's going to hurt. But I also like with this, if you're in a situation where you can't pay the 3 life because you're going to die, then, you can still discard the card. But that discarding 2 cards is really rough. There's just such a huge gulf between discarding 1 card and discarding 2 cards. It's backbreaking.
Well, especially since, this is 1 card that replaces itself, right? Because you become the monarch, so on your end step, you draw a card. And then from there on out, each upkeep, your opponents are down collectively at least 3 cards, or that amount of life, and double that if you're still the monarch. So this seems pretty devastating.
Yeah.
3 life a turn seems a little unassuming, but it's, a few turns. Like, this is quite a potent card just for basically, I don't know. It seems like this incremental value will build up and be quite potent throughout the course of a game.
Yeah, and I think the most powerful thing about it, like you said, Riley, is that it is unassuming. The 3 life doesn't seem like a lot, but it does really start to chip away at you.
Yeah.
And then definitely if you have like a really good board presence and people can't get through to you, and you're getting that 6 life, like in 2 turns, 12 life, that's more than a quarter of your opponent's life totals. So
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
It is very
wrecked.
good card.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Demonic Lore. It's 2 and a black for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. At the beginning of your end step, you lose 2 life for each card in your hand. So just this rate to pay 3 mana to draw 3 cards is fantastic. And the life loss, might not really matter. What is that called when you is it Hellbent? Is that when you don't have cards in your hand?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, if you're doing that, but, if you have a way to get rid of this before your next turn, it's not the life isn't going to matter either. So I think the risk is worth it for that rate of card draw.
Yeah, I could see this in some sort of deck that's either getting value from sacrificing permanents or from donating their permanents. Because there's this card, and I really like the direction that Black has been going with their card draw, just in the sense that like there's this card which is really cool, and then there was also a card in Theros Beyond Death that was similar. It drew you 3 cards when it entered the battlefield, and then whenever you cast a spell, you would lose 1 life. So I definitely like to build a card, even around one of the legends that we are going to see when we get to the multicolored section in a future episode. But one that donates permanents to opponents. I think it would be a fun theme to build around.
Yeah, because then you can definitely these are those great cards. You get the benefit of it, then donate it away and start hurting your opponent. Give this to the blue player at the table, and
yeah, get wrecked.
Yeah. But 3 mana for 3 cards is awesome. But definitely that
super good rate.
That clause, on the other hand, can be very hurtful if you can't get rid of it.
I think that one's definitely more hurtful than the Theros Beyond Death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, unless you're playing Storm.
Exactly.
Next up, we have Keskit, the Flesh Sculptor. It's 2 and a black for a legendary creature, Human Artificer, 1/3. You can tap it, sacrifice 3 other artifacts and or creatures to look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard, and it has Partner.
Hey, look, we got 2 black partners for artifacts.
Yeah,
Mono black partners.
Mono black artifacts. That would be really cool. I haven't seen mono black artifacts before, but I could definitely see partnering these 2 together.
I think that would be a really nice, fun little partner combo because, yeah, like you were saying, black artifacts, the mono black artifacts isn't really a thing that's shown up much. So I'd have fun with that.
Yeah, and with all the discarding that these Keskit and Armix can do, you could do all kinds of recursion shenanigans. That's what black is best at, after all.
They sure are. And of course, whenever your commander says you can draw cards, that's always good.
Oh yeah, of course. So next up we have Necrotic Hex. It's 6 and a black. I like that cost. For a sorcery, each player sacrifices 6 creatures. You create 6 tapped 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. So that's a really great effect for that mana cost. And black is one of those. Black, sort of a lot like blue, it can be greedy in terms of the colored mana pips in its spells. So it's always nice to see an expensive CMC black card that is just like 1 black. It just makes it really, really easy to cast.
Oh, for sure. And having board wipes that have the ability to get around Indestructible are always ones to keep your eye on, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a very powerful effect to have.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And then like comparing it to a Wrath for the extra 2 mana, you are also getting 6 2/2s on the board. It's 12 power.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yep.
you don't have to wait for your turn to rebuild. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, in like a zombie or a sacrifice theme deck, I mean, even taking advantage of sacrificing 6 creatures might be something that you're interested in doing in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
This is also
Yeah.
true. Yeah. All the synergies.
Next up, we have possibly the one of the most polarizing cards from this set. It's Opposition Agent. It's 2 and a black for a human rogue. It has flash. It's a 3/2. You control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. While an opponent is searching the library, they exile each card they find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. How do you guys feel about this card?
I like it. I think it's a good card.
It's a very good card. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course people are thinking it's like too good. I'm not on that whole reign. Basically, this card reads like you get to mess with one of your opponent's tutors.
Yeah.
Until this leaves the board. That's really all it is.
Yeah, nobody's going to willingly play into this. Like, I mean, you can play like what is it, Marlin of the Morning Song or whatever that black commander is.
As a commander, yeah.
Yeah. If you wanted to force people to search their library for stuff and start picking their library apart for fun things to play with. But aside from that, I really don't think it's going to get, like you said, Eric, more than one tutor from somebody at flash speed.
And and best case scenario, you're going to get a vampiric tutor or a demonic tutor. You're going to be able to get whatever card you want. I think most of the time you're going to get a fetch land or a tutoring for a land spell like a Rampant Growth or Nature's Lore. I think that's what's going to happen most often. And then, like you said, Eric, people aren't going to play into this. It's just going to become a removal target.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you can't tutor your libraries. That's really what it reads.
Yeah, it's like a black Aven Mind Sensor.
Yeah.
It does kind of replace itself because you're likely going to do it when you can take advantage of it.
Sure.
But
I
yeah,
hope so.
it's like I don't really know what's better or worse, really. Like Aven Mind Sensor definitely has things going for it as well, but even then, like you don't see Aven Mind Sensor a ton in EDH. I've definitely seen it, but it's not an effect that seems to be well received and not terribly effective.
And that's the thing, right? That's sort of the like the double-barreled shot on cards like this is that the first one is they become a removal target because they stop players from being able to play the game. And the second is that player that plays this card becomes a removal target because rightly or wrongly, they're playing a card that stops their opponents from playing the game, and that just doesn't feel good. And also on top of that, stealing your opponent's cards is just something that that makes most people feel bad. It makes most people want to kill you, which is why, that's just why I don't play my Memnarch deck out in the wild when, we could go to game stores and play, or like I wouldn't take my League Halden and Paco deck out and play it in the wild because unless, I wouldn't do it with strangers is what I'm saying, because you just, it's almost like taking the shirt off of somebody's back. It's just like, it's just something that's impolite to do. So yeah, I think we're on the same page with this card. It's good, it's powerful, and unlike Aven Mind Sensor, it does replace itself in a way, but I think, people aren't going to play into it like people will sometimes play into Aven Mind Sensor because you still do get those first 4 cards to search. But this is just going to become a removal target, and I mean, it's good, but it's not. I don't think it's $30 good.
Yeah, like no. There are also a couple. Like, I think this card gets better when you're talking about CEDH.
Oh,
because you're
absolutely.
You're shutting off everybody's fetch lands, which is the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, and you're drawing
And
a
of
removal
course,
spell as well, right?
pretty much, yeah. Like someone's gonna have to use removal on this because those decks always have tutors in them. They're gonna need to remove this card before they can properly use their deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's where this card will really shine. But just in the more casual EDH meta, I don't think it's gonna.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna see a ton of play. It might initially, but I think more seasoned players just know not to play cards like this, just like they know not to play stacks and things like that unless they're playing in a group of people that they know really well and won't shun them for it, like when Trevor plays Grand Arbiter.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, it's all good.
Yeah, it's also interesting because like another thing, these cards are going to be legal in Legacy and Vintage and such. And I know there's also been the talk about this card, how good it's going to be in Legacy. And I can definitely see this card being quite strong in that format. I just think it'll be interesting to see where it goes once it comes out. So,
Yeah, very true. A lot of
because again,
lot of
1v1,
fetch lands.
and you're turning off your opponent's fetch lands, like that's rough.
Yeah.
And for sure, you're going to be getting like you might do it on your opponent's fetch land, so then they lose a land, you're up a land, you're up resources. That really hurts in that 1v1 kind of situation.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's
Yeah.
it's very difficult to come back from.
Yeah.
So next up we have Plague Reaver. It's 2 and a black for a 6/5 beast. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice each other creature you control, and you can discard 2 cards and sacrifice Plague Reaver. Choose target opponent, return Plague Reaver to the battlefield under that player's control at the beginning of their next upkeep. So we were just talking about a deck where you could donate things, and this would be great to donate before that end step. Am I right?
Yeah.
Sure would.
Yeah, I mean, it even has a donate attached to it, which is, I mean, discarding 2 cards is a little bit steep, but I'm sure you can build your deck in a way that, hey, you don't mind discarding 2 cards to get this kind of effect, especially if it gives you the opportunity to potentially wipe out somebody's board and leave them with this chunky 6/5.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is also kind of funny because you can like give this back and forth on the table once it kind of enters.
Yeah. If you have the cards, and you can do
Yeah.
it at instant speed.
So notably, it will come into that player's control at the beginning of their next upkeep. So
Right.
it's going to have summoning sickness. So they won't get an opportunity to swing with it, which is nice. I mean, they will have the opportunity to discard 2 cards and sacrifice it and give them to somebody else. But if if that's the position they're in, I mean, either way, you're probably going to enjoy that exchange.
Oh, for sure. And I could just see this being kind of funny on a table where it's just like, no, I don't want the Reaver. You take the Reaver. Like,
Yeah, you should probably fear this Reaver.
Nice.
Oh,
Blue Oyster Cult. Love it. Next up, we have Profane Transfusion. It's this is part of a cycle of 9 mana sorceries. But anyways, this one is 6 black for a sorcery. 2 target players exchange life totals. You create an XX colorless horror artifact creature token where X is the difference between those players' life totals. So I think every card in this cycle is kind of the effect you expect from a 9 mana spell. And this is also like a relatively unique ability, is exchanging life totals. We've seen it here and there, but this ability to exchange 2 players, they don't even have to be you and another player. You can just target 2 of your other opponents, and you get a creature out of it. But I could just see this being a really great political card, or just a great way to like turn the tides if you're playing against a life gain player and their life total is insurmountable, and for some reason there's nobody in your meta that plays Voltron. That's tough.
Yeah, and like even just having the ability, like if you're in a deck that is using its life total as a resource and draining yourself of life for gaining some sort of advantage, like Kirk, our best friend Kirk. I could imagine that slotting into a Kirk deck where it's draining itself getting down to a low life total and then ramping this out with Crick's ability to basically, pay 6 mana for this effect and 6 life.
Yeah.
And then
fantastic
just swapping it with somebody's life total so you can keep going off and cripple somebody in the meantime.
Yeah.
And you still get that horror out of the math too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's just a nice, like, they didn't even need to put that on there.
No.
That's just a nice little, you just get a body out of it. That's just icing on the cake.
Yeah,
Totally.
you're like, oh, I also just get this 25/25 horror. What's up?
Yeah, definitely a missed opportunity not having like Crick in the artwork here, because I think we all want more Crick.
Crick.
Next up we have Rakasha. Did I say that right? Rakshasa Debaser.
Hey, you got it.
It's 4 black for a 6/6 cat demon. When it attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and it has Encore for 6 black. I think I did read the reminder text for Encore in the last episode, but this is the first Encore card from this episode, so I'll just give it a quick run through. Exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Activate this ability only as a sorcery.
So we have obviously had a lot of black cards that when they enter the battlefield, they bring back creatures from your opponent's graveyards. Obviously being on an attack trigger, we got downsides, we got upsides. Obviously if this gets removed, that sucks. But if we can do like multiple combats and stuff, we can get more value out of this. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah, totally. And like, you don't have to, you just have the creature now. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I would expect something like this to, like Encore, to have to sacrifice the creature, or to exile the creature or something like that. But no, you just have that creature.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you just get it.
Yeah.
And that's why the Encore is sweet, because you're getting 3 of them back, 1 from each opponent.
Yeah, and I like how he's also, like, the Debaser's also like riding on like a dead, like a reanimated, like bear looking thing or cat looking thing. And he's just like riding it into battle because it's also tapped and attacking. And I think that's very, very flavorful.
Well, the creatures you pull out aren't tapped and attacking. They just enter the battlefield under your control.
Oh yes, no, you're right.
Yeah. But it's got like some nice Grave Titan vibes, and I like Encore in the sense that you get that extra value from the graveyard. So it reminds me almost of like a Grave Titan mixed with like a, what is this, Sepulchral Primordial?
Yeah, Sepulchral. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, both those cards are great, and in this case, like, you're getting that trigger every time. If you've played it for 6 mana and you have it as a big 6/6 creature, you're likely going to be attacking the person with the juiciest graveyard anyway.
Ooh,
oh yeah, got to be juicy, and that's why everybody, you should put Scavenger Grounds into all your commander decks, because
Why do you gotta ruin my fun?
Got to get rid of the graveyard, everybody. Hey Riley, I like playing with the graveyard too, but come on, you don't want me recurring strip mine multiple times a turn, right?
We do have to stop Riley from going off.
we do.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Sizat's Will. It's 4 and a black for an instant. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast the spell, you may choose both. Each opponent sacrifices a creature they control with the greatest power. Exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards, then create X01 black thrall creature tokens, where X is the greatest power among creature cards exiled this way.
I love me a black thrall.
Yeah, it's a good callback. They also should have given the thralls like haunt or whatever that ability was.
Yeah. This whole will cycle is good. I do like all the cards from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Getting both of these is sweet.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this will cycle. Honestly, I don't think this one is the most powerful, but like,
No. It's not.
I think the white one's stronger, which is odd. I don't say that too often, that a white card is stronger than the other colors, but it's nice to see that. But of course, like, if you're in a deck that cares about making a bunch of tokens, and using them as sacrifice fodder. This is going to be a nice role player.
Yeah, and this is great against Voltron because I think Voltron players will. Well, what you should do is you should have contingencies in your deck for edict effects. You should have ways to make tokens or have little other like piddly creatures that help your overall game plan. But with this, a lot of times that creature is going to have the greatest power, so there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do about it.
Yeah, and then I also like it because it's all cards from opponents' graveyards. So if you still want to play with your graveyard, you can run this card too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is nice. A nice workaround. All right, our last black card here is a reprint. It's Vampiric Tutor. It's an instant. Search your library for a card, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. You lose 2 life.
This card looks familiar.
Yeah, I think.
I don't want to lose 2 life.
No, that's the downside. Yeah, that's for sure a downside.
Yeah, that's the crazy downside. Oh boy.
Yeah, this is Demonic Tutor is arguably a better card, but Vampiric Tutor is a very 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 good tutor. And if you have access to one and you have a black deck or you have black in your deck, you're probably not wrong to run this card. It's overall just a fantastic reprint, one of many from this set. Really needed to be reprinted. It was over $100, and just a classic solid card.
Yeah, but of course, if you're looking for the Vamp Tutors, now is the time to pick them up.
Yeah, because they're going to go back up to $100.
Yeah. And yeah, maybe card disadvantage, but like the one mana to get any card, obviously is super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's why it's a mythic.
I guess they had to do it. I guess they had to do
it.
So we are going to move on to red here. Our first card is Aurora Phoenix. It's 4 red for a 5/3 Phoenix with flying. It has Cascade. And whenever you cast a spell with Cascade, return Aurora Phoenix from your graveyard to your hand. So like all Phoenixes, there's a way to get them back from the graveyard. It is too bad that this one goes to your hand instead of right back to the battlefield, but
there's a reason for that.
Yeah, if it went back to the battlefield, you wouldn't get the Cascade trigger, because it is a cast trigger, but it's just nice that when, it's a 6 mana 5/3 with flying, so it doesn't have a great body for that cost, but you are getting card advantage with the Cascade, and you can repeatedly get that card advantage as you cast other spells with Cascade and pull this out of your graveyard and put it back into your hand. So I just really like the value that this card brings to the table. I don't know if I'm going to run it in anything, but it's just a really, I just like the value part of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like Cascade and you want new toys that have Cascade, there's tons of new cards that have been printed that have Cascade, and this is just one of them.
Yeah, and I'm actually really glad that this set is coming out during a time when, at least where we live, the local game stores aren't open to. Their play space isn't open. We can't go and play Paper Magic. And all these new Cascade cards are coming out, these new Cascade commanders. And if you've ever played against a Maelstrom Wanderer deck, even an experienced player, those are long turns. And you guys know how much I dislike long turns and long games. So, my point in saying this is it's nice that these Cascade cards are coming out in a time where I don't have to go out and deal with them, essentially. Yeah.
Oh, don't you worry. I'll crack out Maelstrom Wanderer for you, Kev.
Yeah, do it up, man.
No, the Maelstrom Wanderer deck that I used to have was just a Teamer Hugs deck. So it's just using Maelstrom Wanderer to cast group hug cards, and it was just bizarre and ridiculous.
Well, it sounds fun. Next up, we have Coastline Marauders. It's 2 and a red for a 0/3 human pirate. It has trample. Whenever it attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each land defending player controls, and it has Encore for 4 and 2 red.
So obviously, with trample, that's why this card is good.
Yeah, this is a solid aggressive card.
Yeah, like even on turn 3, it's at least a 3/3. Which is pretty decent.
Yeah.
Obviously, later in the game, you may just try and get through like a single shot, Because it does only have the 3 power. Sadly, it doesn't get +1/+1. It's only +1/+0.
Yeah, not a great defender, but it's gonna hit like a truck.
Super truck, yeah. The art on this one's great too. I just love this pirate holding an axe and
A saber.
a sword.
Yeah,
saber. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, get it right.
Yeah, come on.
I was trying to think of the name, and I was like, I can't. It's a sword.
It is a sword,
But technically, it's a saber.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Dargo the Shipwrecker. I got some forced perspective on the art of this card. It's 6 and a red for a 7/5 legendary giant pirate. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrificed this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you've sacrificed this turn. It has trample, and it has partner. Oh boy, it's not going to be too difficult to cast this for 1 red mana. That additional clause at the end really, really, I hadn't taken a good look at this card. I saw the art and I was just turned off by it. But yeah,
Are you not suddenly
nice.
hungry for some lobster?
Yeah.
I thought it was a crayfish because I didn't realize I didn't give the card too much of a look, so I didn't see that he was a giant pirate.
Yeah.
But
No,
it is just a lobster.
It's either a giant with like forced perspective, as you said, or it's just a man with really tiny legs.
Well, he doesn't look like he's that tall compared to where the water is, right? So it's like
it's kind of weird. It kind of throws you for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But yeah, that secondary clause of counting like a 2 mana discount for each artifact or creature that you've sacrificed this turn is huge. Like, not only can you use that to use his first ability to ramp him out, but use, the treasures that you've maybe sacrificed to, pay for his mana cost to reduce it dramatically. And of course, like, that is also going to reduce commander tax as well. So if somebody's aggressively removing him from the board, you can sacrifice a few extra things and bring him right back.
And like a commander with 7 power as a trampler, can be very scary when you keep getting it back to the board.
Yeah, it's a 3-turn clock, baby.
Ooh,
yeah. I really like this card is really cool because if you like, the best way to build it is around sack outlets, obviously. But it's like you can get value from doing some sort of sacrifice strategy because he becomes cheaper, but also he can enable your sacrifice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he synergizes very well with treasure, and we all know that pirates love treasure because basically for each treasure that you're sacrificing, you're getting 3 mana out of the deal.
Yeah.
It's funny that pirates also kind of treat sand as a bank, because they bury their treasure in the sand, and they hide it, sort of like what we do with like money in a bank. But like anybody could just come along and find the treasure. It's not a great system. Like, just hang on to the treasure. That's never really made a ton of sense to me when it comes to pirates, that they bury the treasure and not just like use the treasure for things or keep the treasure, buy a better boat. I don't know. So
I don't think they just store it in any like patch of sand. Like, there's probably like a secure island or somewhere where it's hardly accessible where they would bury it, right? They're not just gonna like find a random beach that's like heavily populated and start digging.
No, they're gonna find a secluded beach, but I don't think there's like some ultimate like treasure island, like the novel Treasure Island. But who knows? I mean, every pirate's different.
You got to make a map for it, and then if you lose that map, now someone else can get your treasure. Like, oh boy,
yeah,
just
totally,
just a big risk. But that risk comes along with the territory of being a pirate, right?
That's a pirate's life.
Yeah. No, it's not it's definitely not it's not like a reliable way to live. It's like you don't see a lot of like families on a pirate ship. So it's a lot of pillaging. It's a lot of it's a lot of men. They're probably like horrible criminals. So it's not It's not great. It's not great. They're not like the best of the best that humanity or whatever has to offer. But let's move on to the next card here. We have Jessica's Will. It's 2 and a red for a sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander, as you cast the spell, you may choose both. You can add a red for each card in target opponent's hand. And or you can exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. So this is a great. This card's great all around. It's a great ritual effect, and in a multiplayer format like this draft format or in Commander, you can really pick and choose. Go after that blue player, get a ton of mana, and if you control your commander, you can use that mana to play the spells or the cards that you exile from the top of your library. And it says play, so you can hit lands, which is really nice.
Yeah, this card is fantastic, and I think it's gonna be. It'd be interesting to see this in a nice like aggressive build of a deck, just in the sense that you have like a low drop commander, so then on turn 3, hopefully you can cast this, get a nice big boost because it's early enough in the game that hopefully somebody has 6 or 7 cards.
6 or 7, hand, yeah, oh yeah,
and then just explode out onto the board with the top 3 cards that you exiled from the top of your library. I think that would be where this card would shine, or obviously like in some sort of combo or storm deck where a ritual is going to be liked.
Oh, absolutely. I think for the mana cost on this card, you could accelerate yourself so far ahead on turn 3. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the classic, this is how red's doing card advantage. Going 3 deep for 3 mana is a super good rate.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly, it's ramp and it's card draw. Like what else do you want?
Life gain.
You want life gain? I don't know if life gain would be my next thing. But yeah, whatever works. Next up we have Kedis Emberclaw Familiar. It's 1 and a red for a legendary elemental lizard, 1/1. Whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent, and it has partner. So I was thinking about this card, and would the damage that's dealt to each other opponent, would that be commander damage, or would that just be damage that's coming from Kedis's triggered ability?
It does say that the commander deals the damage to each other opponent.
Yeah, so as long as that's combat damage being dealt by that commander, then
right.
It's,
nice. Yeah. Wow, that's nice.
So let's just right away combo this with a card we've just talked about, the big old giant who's a trampler.
Oh, wait, hang on a second.
Yeah.
What?
So hang on, because it says, okay, so whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So the each other opponent, it wouldn't actually be combat damage. That's just
okay.
That's
it's
that's
just
not
dealing
damage.
Yeah,
damage.
Sorry,
right.
I thought it was a double effect or something like that, but no, it's
no,
distributing the love.
Yeah,
but get wrecked.
Yeah. It'd be cool to have this guy just like hanging out on your shoulder.
Yeah, well, he loves head scratches, as the flavor text outlines. Yeah. So next up we have Krark the Thumbless, similar to Crick, actually, in how it sounds, what your mouth does when you say it. It's 1 and a red for a 2/2 legendary goblin wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy, and it has partner.
I love this card.
Is obviously going to go into the deck where you're just like, double or nothing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, in that deck, I would let you run Krark's Other Thumb, even though it's silver bordered.
Yeah, because there's Krark's Thumb, and then there's Krark's Other Thumb.
Obviously, this guy requires you to have that artifact where you just always like win the coin flip or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you...
I don't remember what that card's called.
Well, Krark's Thumb makes it so you flip 2 coins and pick the result you want.
Yeah, right. You ignore one. And what does Krark's Other Thumb do? Is it the same thing?
I don't know. I've never heard of it.
I have no idea.
So it's 2 for a legendary artifact. If you would roll a die, instead roll 2 of those die and ignore one of those results. So it's
it's
more of a dice roll thing.
it is just like a functional reprint of Krark's thumb, but it's his other thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So instead of the coin tosses, it's the die rolls.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a die roll. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I've never seen that. But Krark's thumb is legal for sure.
So next up we have Port Razor. It's 3 red for an Orc Pirate 4/4. When it deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there is an additional combat phase. Port Razor can't attack a player it has already attacked this turn.
Yeah, you gotta
This
spread
is-
that love.
Yeah, this is a really interesting spin on repeatable combat steps. It's not like broken like Najeela's ability, which is she was also reprinted in this set, but it's also not as restrictive as the new Minotaur from Zendikar Rising. But and with the right board state, you could have 3 or 4 combat steps in a turn,
Yeah.
and that can just be so backbreaking. And if you had creatures with vigilance, and you could also tap them for mana, you could also get some that's just like a ton of mana if if you could use that mana for mana sinks. I'm just thinking about like Magical Christmas Land. You'd have to use it at would you have to use it? I guess you'd have to use it at.
You'd have to use it during that phase.
Yeah. So you'd want to have a mana sink that you could activate it at instant speed. But yeah. My point is just that this is it's just it's a really cool spin on repeatable combat phases. Without being terribly broken.
Yeah, just give your boys some evasion and go to town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Spread it around, and then you're everybody's enemy.
I need all my attack triggers. I have to hit you all.
Yeah. Next up, we have Rorgrok, Rograka.
I think it's
Have fun with that one.
Rograk, son of Raga. It's 0 mana for a 0/1 legendary Cobalt warrior. It has First Strike, Menace, Trample, and Partner.
Yeah, I don't like. This is probably one of the most unplayable cards, but also the one I'm most excited for. Just a 0 mana 0/1 with First Strike, Menace, Trample is all I've ever wanted.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a fun commander to build around, and the Partner just opens you up to really whatever colors you want to partner with at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And then, of course, like any of those cards that like want to have your commander out, like we were just talking about Jessica's Will, we can definitely get both modes off Jessica's Will when we're casting this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
combo.
You could definitely see it as kind of a combo commander for cards that care about having your commander or how many times you've cast your commander, or you could try to suit them up with all the equipment you can find and make a Voltron commander out of a 0 drop.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Voltron's always good when you also got Trample, so...
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we have Soulfire Eruption. It's 6 red for a sorcery. Choose any number of target creatures, planeswalkers, and or players. For each of them, exile the top card of your library, then Soulfire Eruption deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to that permanent or player. You may play the exiled cards until the end of turn. I think the only thing they forgot here is without paying their mana cost.
And it's also end of your next turn.
End of your next turn. Yes, thank you.
So you get a whole turn cycle to play them.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is you need that. After you spend 9 mana. Yeah, definitely. This is another. This is the red 9 mana mythic from this set, and just like the rest of them, it does not disappoint.
Yeah,
Sure doesn't. It really combines 2 of Red's cool, unique abilities, where it's just like we have had things where we're flipping cards from the top of the deck and dealing damage to stuff. And then also other red cards that let us play cards to the end of your next turn. Let's just smash those things together in a really cool card. And it's like how many things we want to deal damage to can get us more cards off of the top of our deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I like the way it scales by caring about the number of targets that are available.
Yeah.
I don't think the damage aspect of the card is that relevant because it's going to be random and you're going to hit, like a third
Lands.
is going to be lands or whatever.
Yeah.
So like that's going to be really chaotic and inconsistent. But the fact that you can then turn around, have a scalable card that basically impulse draws you whatever, that's pretty powerful. And if you're not able to win in the following turn, then I don't know.
Choose fire.
Better
Yeah,
luck
I don't
next
know.
time.
Do better. Do better. Next up, we have Toggo Goblin Weaponsmith. It's 2 and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature, Goblin Artificer. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Rock with equipped creature has pay 1, tap, sacrifice Rock. This creature deals 2 damage to any target, and equip cost is 1, and it has partner. You guys think Rock is funny because he's holding up that rock?
I love
It's
that
such a funny card.
he's the Goblin Weaponsmith, and his weapons that he's crafting are rocks.
Yeah, he's just funny. He's probably breaking bigger rocks and making little rocks that he can throw.
He's like, I've made rock. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah, the two goblins that have the partner are definitely lovely. They're great.
Yeah, they just seem they just seem great to like pal around with.
But
Totally.
in all
Fun
seriousness, this is a fantastic card to have in an Equipment Matters deck. Like even just as part of the 99, it doesn't necessarily have to be one of your commanders, but just the ability to, on a land drop, make a free equipment that you can then equip for 1, like that's huge.
And like 2 damage is nothing to really shy at either. Like you can get rid of this would be much worse if it was only the 1 damage, obviously. But it's really nice that they did give you the 2 damage for the rock, because if you have a couple of those, you can like remove actual bigger creatures, and it's nothing to, shy away from. This could come out of nowhere and actually like remove some of your important creatures you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But even in the set, there's some creatures that care about the number of equipment attached to them. The new Boros commander in one of the precons cares about the number of equipment or auras attached to him and draws you that many cards when it attacks. So just like being able to play a land, get an equipment, equip it to that creature, and then get an extra benefit from a free equipment that comes out of a land, like I'm here for it.
And our last red card today is Wheel of Misfortune. It's 2 and a red for sorcery. Each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. This is just such a fun card. This is one of my favorite cards in the set. Because it's really the choosing of the numbers really depends on everybody's life total, and you can kind of use that when you're making your decision. But if you play this early and everybody has 40 life, I think it's a lot more fun. And only the people that didn't choose the lowest get to have the Wheel of Fortune effect. So only one person isn't going to get that effect. So I think this is just a real feel good card.
Yeah. So
Unless
I think you're going to be able to take advantage of it if you're running it right, being able to refill your hand in most cases. But it's also nice that as an opponent, or I guess even as a player, like if you really like your hand and there's no reason for you to discard it, just vote 0. Or I guess choose 0. You're not voting in this case, but
I vote 0.
It's supposed to be a secret.
And what do you do, like simultaneously, like 1, 2, 3, my number?
I guess you just I don't know, maybe have a notepad or something like that. You can just jot number down or something like that, or jot it down on your phone.
Yeah, you're gonna have to bring your own notepad. I don't have a notepad.
Just pull up your notes app on your phone and write it down there.
Yeah. But yeah, like if you want to keep your hand, you want to have a higher number.
What?
Well, each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. The 3 players that chose the least number gets to wheel their hand. The highest number gets that amount of damage dealt to them.
Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand. Then
Yeah,
you
the
draw
player that
7
chose wouldn't the player that chose the lowest number
not get the wheel? See,
each player
I think
didn't choose
that's
the
why
lowest
this
number
card is so confusing, because
discards their
there's
hand.
a few double negatives. But I'm pretty sure, like, if you choose 0, then you'd basically be guaranteed to not get the wheel, right?
So hold on.
Yeah, because it
Like-
deals damage equal to the highest number, the highest number chosen to each
Yeah.
player who chose that number. So that's
Yeah.
generally going to be one player, and then each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand, then draws 7 cards.
Oh,
If
I missed that.
if you say 0, then the highest number that was chosen is going to take the damage. They're going to get the wheel, and then the other
They
two
still get the
players
wheel.
are going to get the wheel in a 4-player game.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in theory, if you have 1 high, 1 low, and 2 in the middle, 2 in the middle wheel, the 1 high wheels and also takes damage, and then the lowest doesn't get anything.
Yeah. All right, so we're moving on to green. Our first green card is Apex Devastator. It's 8 green for a 10/10 Chimera Hydra. I don't even know how that works, but it has Cascade. So just for like the wow value of this card, I think it's worth talking about, because this is going to be this is just going to take a little while to resolve. But what's nice about Cascade is it just
doesn't even take Cascade doesn't take very long to resolve, I don't think.
Yeah, how many things do you have above 10 CMC in your deck?
Yeah, like you're just gonna flip cards from the top. You're like, oh, I got 4 spells. Let's do this.
Oh, but then I'm sure if you build like with Cascade in
you're
mind, you're
building-
gonna have other cascaders that you're cascading into that are gonna have to resolve before this cascader. And
Yeah,
you're gonna have to
exactly.
That CMC, it's just gonna be a mess.
yeah.
We're just gonna try and cascade into Craterhoof and win the game.
Nice. See, that's what I
goal.
like. Yeah. just get Craterhoof for the win. I know like a lot of people don't like that, but I'm a fan.
I do want to do that playing Magic. I have to cast this card and cascade into Craterhoof. I just want to do that.
Well,
Even if it's the only other creature I have.
so yeah, and I like, before we move on to the next card, I don't know how much we're actually going to see this card being played in Commander, because it is 10 mana, but it's just an interesting. It's almost like a silver bordered card. It sort of feels that way.
Just with how much it does.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it is a bit of a house. I mean, 10 mana is quite a bit to ask for, but I'm sure if you build it with this in mind, then you're gonna be impressed with what this can do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. back in the days where you'd pay like 10 mana for like a 7/7 or something, you're like, not only do I have this 10/10, I get 4 more cards I can cast.
Yeah, better than an ETB. I mean, even if this
Yeah.
thing gets countered, you're still gonna cascade 4 times.
Yeah, you're still casting 4 more spells.
Yeah.
Knowing my luck, I would just hit ramp all the time. All right, well, I
Rampant
guess I have some
growth.
more lands, but
Wild explosive vegetation. It's like, Eric, why are you still running that in your deck?
At the very least, swap it out for Migration Path. Come on.
Yeah.
oh boy.
So next up, we have Bio-Waste Blob. It's funny because whoever put this on the list did it
Yeah.
before the. So it was Riley.
Yeah.
Before the. We had the full set spoiled, so it's the Scryfall translation, and on Scryfall the translation was Ooze Origins, which I think might be a better name for the card. But yes, it's Bio-Waste Blob. It's 2 and 2 green for a 0/0 ooze. Oozes you control get +1/+1 at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control a commander, create a token that's a copy of Bio-Waste Blob. The only thing that this card has going against it is that you need to control a commander. If it just had that upkeep trigger without the commander, it's just like Bio-Waste Blob creates a token that's a copy of itself. This card would be a home run. I mean, I think as it is a home run, just because it can it's just gonna stack like crazy. It's sort of like a Sliver Legion for oozes if you have the time, that is.
Yeah, I mean, like a 4-mana 1/1 is a good rate. So
No, yeah, of course it's a good rate. I mean, we talk about power creep all the time, and this is a perfect example of it.
yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't do end step for this one.
that would have been. I would have liked
Yeah,
that.
they've been doing that
Yeah.
more and more. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have another court card. It's Court of Bounty, 2 and 2 green for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you're the monarch, instead, you may put a creature card, a creature or land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Pardon me. So it replaces itself like all of these cards that make you the monarch. And the ability to play an extra land every turn, put a land onto the battlefield, is fantastic. No one's gonna turn their nose up at that. But being the monarch with this card is kind of insane. You just get to put a creature onto the battlefield on upkeep. It's
Or a land.
Yeah, or land. Yeah, it's not one or the other, but or like it's just kind of you get the ETB trigger. It's just kind of nuts for 4 mana.
I just want somebody to put an Apex Devastator onto the battlefield so they can be disappointed when they realized it doesn't actually cast it.
Well, it's a learning experience.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the difference between cast and ETB. Oy vey.
Magic's hard.
It is hard. I'm still like we were just playing Magic on what was that, Riley? That was Sunday, and I'm asking you about like double strike, and I was still like, oh, I didn't know that's how it worked. But anyways, next up we have Dawnglade Regent. It's 5 green for an 8/8 elk. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch, and as long as you are the monarch, permanents you control have hexproof.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good ability.
I don't know what I'm more excited for: the fact that it's a monarchy card, or the fact that it's an elk for my elk tribal deck.
Do we have a legendary elk, or are you using like Morphon at this point?
Gigantha.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No.
Yeah, just
legendary.
another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. You're gonna get there.
Trust me. Yeah, elks are not quite there yet, but this is a pretty fun card. Like 7 mana to give all your things hexproof is obviously a good effect, but 7 mana is hard to ask for. But fortunately, if you like the monarch, like this has got your back. It at the very least replaces itself and gives you that form of protection immediately.
Yeah. No, anything that gives me the monarch, I'm there for it. Next up, we have Kamal's Will. It's 3 and a green for an instant. Choose one if you control a commander. As you cast the spell, you may choose both. Until end of turn, any number of target lands you control become 1/1 elemental creatures with vigilance, indestructible, and haste. They're still lands. And or you can choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to that creature. So, in the event of an Armageddon, you can save your lands, which doesn't come up very often, but hey, when it does.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Of course, this is like a okay removal spell on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, it's instant speed, but it is 4 mana, so it is a little awkward in that sense. But I guess when it comes to the land thing, I almost wish, and this would probably be a little bit too strong, but I almost wish it untapped your lands. Almost like a turnabout, that turned your lands into 1/1s.
Right. Yeah, that I think in the spirit of this card, it wouldn't be too powerful, but in the rich tapestry that is Commander, it would be too powerful because you would use it for the mana.
The mana production of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But just in a vacuum with this card and what it's trying to do, I don't think that would be too powerful. I think it would actually, I mean, obviously it would make it better, but it would just I think it would get it there, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we have Kodama of the East Tree. It's 4 green for a 6/6 legendary spirit with reach. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. And if that wasn't enough, it has partner.
I love how this does say at least it's equal or less.
Mm-hmm.
So, 6 mana for 12 mana pretty much is the best you're going to get out of this, which is a pretty sweet effect.
Oh yeah, you could play your you could play your other commander potentially if you're partnering up, and you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, just play both commanders for 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Kodama,
pretty
the 2 for 1.
pretty strong. Yeah, I mean that's all I can say. It's a green card that seems pretty strong. So
yeah, we've had a lot of those in recent memory. Next up, we have Reshape the Earth. So I think this is the last one of these 9 mana sorcery cycle cards. It's 6 green for sorcery. Search your library for up to 10 land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So again, this is the kind of effect I want from 9 mana. It's kind of a shame that they come into play tapped. You will be able to set yourself up for your next turn. But, if, let's say, you wanted to put this in like an Angry Omnath deck, getting 10 5/5s, and, those decks are usually built with haste enablers on the board, swinging in with that much damage, that seems like a pretty good turn to me.
Yep. Seems like a good finisher for a landfall deck. That's
yeah.
That's what I can say.
Exactly what this is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you could just look at it as, hey, I'm going to double my mana this turn.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Next up, we have Root Weaver Druid. It's 2 and a green for a 2/1 elf druid. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent may search their library for up to 3 basic land cards. They put one of those cards onto the battlefield tapped under your control, and the rest onto the battlefield tapped under their control. Then each player who searched their library this way shuffles it. So the player that it's each opponent. So the player that's casting this, they're only going to be netting, they're only going to be ahead by 1 land because they're getting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it gets better the more players, more opponents. But generally, when I think of commander cards, I'm always thinking of a 4-player pod. So everybody's going to get 2 lands if they choose to search, and then the player that casts this is going to get 3. So it does kind of seem like a card that I wouldn't. That I would say no to if Eric, you or Riley, you cast this, like a what is that there's that cycle of cards.
Like Tempt with the Discovery.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody just search for a strip mine so we can get them, kind of thing. But this is basics, and I think because they're only 1 land ahead, it could almost be it's like a group hug card that is a little more beneficial for the player that's casting it, obviously. But yeah, I think they found a really good balance with this style of card with this one.
I can honestly, I can picture this coming onto the battlefield and all of your opponents saying, "No, we're good," and now you've got a 3 mana 2/1.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, and it's that's why they had to find that kind of sweet balance spot, because I think if there was too much value, you just always have people say no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Tempt with Discovery.
Yeah.
And it's so this is a really interesting one, because then it's one person's yeah, I'm going to do it. Then you only get 1 land out of this while they're getting the 2, and they're well, now I have more lands than everybody, the 1 person who searched, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So now it's do other people do it now too, so that they don't fall further behind and blah, blah, blah. So it's really interesting in that way.
Yeah, it's kind of like an all or nothing. I feel like amongst the table, it's going to bring up discussion in that, either A, we can search for nothing, assuming everybody's at a decent place in the game, we can search for nothing, and they get a 2/1 out of the deal, so boo-hoo, sucks to be them.
Great, yeah.
Or one person gives in, and then the rest of the table is going to give in because they're going to see that 2 of their opponents have ramped 3, or 3 of their opponents have ramped 6. Like they're not going to be the the odd one out. So, yeah, interesting.
This is basic lands. I think I'm saying yes to this.
Yeah, and like you get to choose which card, which land the Root Water Weaver Druid's controller gets. So like, you can give them an off-color land and just give them a colorless source, which, isn't a big boon to their game plan, but I think it's common sense that you wouldn't give them a colored source that they can utilize.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on to Flubber, which was the Skyfall translation for Slurk All Ingesting. It's 5 and a green for a 0/0 legendary ooze. It enters the battlefield with 5 1/1 counters on it. When it or another creature you control dies, if it had a 1/1 counter on it, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control that has a 1/1 counter on it, and it has partner.
Slurk.
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 Well, I mean, we've got an ooze tribal commander, so
Yeah.
there you go.
We did it.
We did it.
I mean, Vanifar is an ooze, but Vanifar is also a combo commander, so I don't think that's the direction you'd go with Vanifar. But Slurk is here for your ooze needs.
I'm sure people have built like an ooze tribal deck around Vanifar, but you're right.
Probably.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the best use of that commander.
Yeah, this definitely is, like, it does suck that it says only creatures with 1/1 counters
I know,
only get the 1/1
yeah.
counters. But it is whenever Slurk or another creature dies, then they do get them. So it does have some power to it. I think it's still pretty good.
Yeah, this might have been a good like potential include if we'd known about it in our experiment garage deck, just as a way to like to close out the game if like you weren't getting your combo pieces, so then you could just like keep building your team and maybe put some sacrifice stuff in there to accelerate the 1/1 counter engine and just make a bunch of fatties. I don't know.
Yeah,
Totally.
Okay, our last green card today and our last card for this episode is 3 Visits, another reprint. It's 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a forest card. Put that card onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. An additional Nature's Lore. Essentially, Nature's Lore is the same card, just with a different name. But this was a card that was printed in one of the Portal sets and was very expensive. It was around $60 for the longest time. So last I looked at this copy was floating right around $2 USD. So it's taken quite a hit, and it's going to take even more of a hit once the set gets released because it's an uncommon. But this is just a fantastic ramp card. Like I'll be putting this into slivers. I might. This is a great, if let's say you're running Nature's Lore and Rampant Growth in a deck, like, and you only have space for those two. I'd replace. I wouldn't necessarily replace Rampant Growth with 3 Visits because it has to be a forest. But if you're running a lot of dual lands, then I probably would because Rampant Growth cares about basics. But yeah, this is just a great way to mana fix because it goes and gets you a dual land and it doesn't enter the battlefield tapped.
Yeah. Yeah, great card. Great reprint.
We needed it. Might be the best reprint in the set.
Currently, on Skyfall, Portal 3 Kingdoms is $124.
Wow. I wonder if in terms of like the financial hit it's taken from where it was to where this particular printing is, like the difference, if this is like the best reprint from that perspective, because like the big cards like Mana Drain and Vampiric Tutor, those have taken a hit, but percentage wise this is probably taken the biggest hit.
Oh yeah, this is like an Imperial Recruiter effect where Imperial Recruiter is still a sought after card, but just the fact that it was printed in the Portal set was the biggest reason why it was so expensive, right? Such a scarce printing.
Yeah, it was scarcity, not demand. And I would say that 3 Visits is probably going to be more ubiquitous than Imperial Recruiter.
Yeah, especially at uncommon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
Totally.
Imperial Recruiter didn't they reprint it at Mythic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God.
But yeah, the just looking at MTG stocks, because of the 2020 buyouts, 3 visits was climbing above $200
Oh my.
US.
Oh my! And this is the first foil printing of 3 visits, and the first
It
and the
is.
first full art, extended art foil printing. So, get your copies while they're hot.
Good stuff.
Well, everybody, we're gonna bring this episode to a close. We actually did this in a pretty reasonable amount of time, getting those 3 colors in there. So, thank you for listening, and Ainsley, thank you for the work that you do every week on the show.
As always, thank you.
Thank you to all of us, really, for being here. I'm kidding, but not really. And we're going to be back next week to wrap up our set review. We're going to cover the gold, colorless, and land cards from this set that have piqued our interest. And in the meantime, if you think we've missed anything, or even just some cards that you're interested in putting into whatever decks where these cards are going to be legal in those particular formats, you can get in touch with us. You can email us. If you want a quick response, you can DM us on Instagram. And as always, please comment, like, and subscribe wherever you listen. And we'll talk to you next week.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.
Slurk.
Slurk.